just a wonderful mess.
Like, I expected Venom to be trash. And I was surprised. I'm like, frick, I'm laughing at this. Frick, this is entertaining me. Like, the only thing that, like, I guess I really don't like is the final fight.
Yeah.
Well, how do you have this black symbiote and this dark gray other thing fighting at night?
These black creatures look like they mean business.
Shadows moving upon shadow. I don't know.
Looking like some damn heartless.
Some damn heartless, gosh.
And, wait, Tom Hardy did voice Venom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was perfect.
Yeah, that was...
Speaking of heartless, how far are you in Kingdom Hearts?
Man, I haven't played in the past week because I was too busy with Astral Chain.
Oh, shit. Okay, fair enough.
Oh, I finished One Punch Man Season 2, by the way.
Over at Bots.
It was entertaining.
It was entertaining. Okay.
That's probably the best word I could describe it as. Like, it wasn't, it didn't blow my mind, but I was thoroughly entertained.
That's fair.
I feel like I ruined myself by reading the manga before.
Reading the manga. I could totally see.
Incredible.
I could definitely understand your when you're talking about like the animation, like kind of when it becomes average. Yeah, and it's probably even like comparing it to the manga, it's even more so. I'm sure.
Yeah, because the manga, it depicts itself so dynamically that you feel the motion even though it's not moving.
Mm-hmm.
But then the anime, it's like even though the anime is moving, you don't feel any motion.
I will say also, it's probably, I know it didn't really affect my viewing, but I remember when I started watching it, for some reason Hulu like cropped the screen a little bit, like it pushed it in when I was watching it. So I was like, I don't know if I was actually, I don't think it was enough for me to miss action, but I could tell like some parts were like stiller than others. But I mean overall it was fine. I mean I couldn't help keep comparing it to My Hero, like especially with the introduction of this other opposing organization. I don't know if everyone else has. Everyone else seen it? Was I the last one?
I've not seen it.
Okay. But they introduced the Monster Association. I keep thinking of the League of Villains or whatever from My Hero, and I'm just yeah. But still entertaining. Probably the next thing, and also yes, you know this. You saw it on Snapchat. I started watching JoJo now, so I'm like in part 2. Oh my god.
Part 2 is so good.
Oh my god. Like, I think it's not only is it just good on its own, but because of part 1 was just, I think it's just meh. Yeah, it's just meh. And the fact that it gets like that, like it skyrocketed, made it even better,
Yeah.
And totally got Indiana Jones vibes from it too. So I was just pulled in a lot. But yeah, I'm only watching like 5 episodes a week with some other people, so I can't binge. But yeah. Yeah, I kind of started recording just because I like hearing casual talk. I think it's entertaining.
Not all those sounds though. That was horrendous.
Oh, we can't have that. That's not safe for work.
Yeah, our sanitation levels decrease.
Oh Lord.
Sanitation.
I got AIDS.
I don't even know what I mean.
Welcome to the HIV club.
No.
Why you fail
Once
like that?
again, yo, these freaking Snapchat stories, like the Love Don't Judge one, and then it was the HIV positive girl, and like every time she like smooched her husband, I just kind of I'm like I guess apparently I don't really know how it's transmitted outside of sex, like cuts. I think that's how, or like
It used to be believed that it was through any bodily fluid.
Any bodily
like
fluid.
even kissing.
Okay,
But now I think they said that's debunked, and I'm like, how the fuck did you debunk that when you made that claim in the first place?
I don't know, but like those two were like, they just can't, like, I don't know why. I mean, the cinematographer was like, we have to show them kissing like every other frame.
Dude, that and like the Born Different snaps be making me like,
Oh my gosh.
I be feeling bad. I'm like, I don't want to see this, please.
Yeah, I mean, some of it I get like I get like a little warm because I'm like, I'm glad that they're living their best life. But a part of me is like, that's different,
Mm-hmm.
But
All right, we definitely can't have this.
That's different.
like the thing is, it's called Born Different.
All right. That's a great segue for Joker.
Oh my.
That shit's
Yeah. So okay, this episode it's not gonna have too many timestamps. We just kind of go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And here we go.
What's up, big fellas? Welcome back to the Fake Fellas, where we got our big fella today. Thank you, Marvin, for joining us. You know, we didn't know if you were gonna make it, but we're here. You're here. We're happy. All right, we're back with our normal crew today. No special guest, but we got some good stuff for you today.
No, we're special, all right.
Oh. All right, I don't know what that meant, but we're gonna keep it moving. I'm Abraham.
I'm Alia.
I'm Caleb.
And I'm Marvin.
And yeah, thank you. We're gonna start out with a little bit of news. So I got pulled up right here. If you're not aware, Nintendo is currently developing the sequel to Breath of the Wild on Nintendo Switch, and it seems like within the past couple of days we have a new leak. Ooh, let's see what this is. I guess. Oh yeah, this is kind of kicking off Spoopy Month because Breath of the Wild 2 looks pretty spoopy. So yeah, let's get into this. So I have the article pulled up here. It's showing that Breath of the Wild 2 is scheduled for release on January 2021.
Oh, for some reason I don't know why I thought 2020. You know, there's no way.
I know.
It's basically 2020, you know?
It's a whole another year, my guy.
I mean, but it's you said January, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's basically the end of 2020.
I mean, do you remember all of the delays that we got for Breath of the Wild?
Yeah. I remember the conversations when people thought that Link would be a girl, like when they first showed that trailer kind of thing when he was fighting the Guardian.
No, he's not an anime. He's just a pretty boy.
Yeah.
Just pretty.
Oh, did I say
Very
anime? No, he's not a girl. He's just a pretty anime boy. Big guy.
I just ran with it, dog. I didn't know what you were trying to say.
I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief. I didn't know what you were talking about.
I did have a question though. So like, I personally haven't played that many of the Zelda games. I played like Majora's Mask, and that was about it. But from what I've heard, each like game is like basically like a standalone. Like it exists in its own little pocket and like continuity or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So is this like the first time they've done something like this, where like it was a direct continuation from a previous game?
Well, I mean, Majora's Mask is a direct sequel to Ocarina.
I did not know that.
So yeah,
I don't play the game. So
so there have been multiple sequels in the Zelda timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So originally the Zelda timeline was Zelda 1, then Zelda 2 came out as a direct sequel, then Link to the Past, which was like kind of a sequel. But then they just said, we're revising the whole timeline. And then Link's Awakening came out, which is kind of a sequel to Link to the Past.
Yeah.
And then
I think just recently, didn't they like change its placement with the remastered version or something?
they've changed all of the timeline.
I have to pull this ish up.
This
I mean, this could be a whole other episode, to be honest.
Skyward Sword is like the ultimate prequel.
Yeah.
And then everything comes after that. Phantom Hourglass was a direct sequel to Wind Waker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we haven't really had a sequel since then.
Yeah, and Ocarina splits the timeline. So.
And then Breath of the Wild joins the timeline back together.
Okay.
It's a multiverse that reconverges. It makes no sense.
Or it's like each timeline somehow ends up at Breath of the Wild at some point or something like that. Which to me, it feels like a what's it called? A cop out a little bit.
I mean, the whole timeline is a cop out.
This is true.
But anyway, so Breath of the Wild 2. Keep in mind, this is all just a leak, so take everything with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
So right here it says that not only will this be releasing on January 2021, but a new edition of the Switch will also be releasing with the release of this game. And apparently, this game is supposed to run at 60 FPS 4K.
Oh, freak.
So it's supposed to be a boosted Switch system
What the
with
frick? So like a Switch Pro, I guess, kind of thing?
yeah,
Okay.
but only in TV mode. It's supposed to run that high.
Okay.
So that looks interesting. Also, apparently Zelda is playable. I don't know. It doesn't say if she's playable, but she
like an assist character.
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Okay,
from
so
this.
kind of like how Ellie was in Last of Us, or how Elizabeth was in Bioshock Infinite, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also,
Yeah, I understand.
this is supposed to be really dark, like darker than Majora's Mask.
Oh, frick.
Yeah. And so the setting is supposed to be a darker alternate world of Hyrule, but the enemies are the same.
Okay. So it's kind of the same map, but I guess you're like changing its.
It's like the upside down of Hyrule.
Okay. Yeah.
Which
So
has,
like.
which has happened numerous times.
Yeah, like in A Link
series
to the
before.
Past and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
I'm so excited.
Can't wait for Bo to buy it.
oh, I know I'm buying it.
So you think it would be kind of like, like the Red Moon kind of thing, but like prolonged, maybe. As like
Maybe.
it's the setting ish.
That would be terrifying, but
Dude, yeah. I don't know if I can take that. It's just so like.
I was freaked out the first time the Blood Moon happened.
Yeah, right. Oh my god, what the frick's happening?
I didn't know if I messed up, if I failed. Ganon just destroyed everything again.
I was just chopping down this tree. I was just cooking a meal. And all of a
I was
sudden.
trying to find a horse.
Oh my.
But yeah, that's really exciting. I can't wait for that game to come out.
Mm-hmm.
But until then, I'll be enjoying lots of other games that I have to catch up on. So not in too much of a rush.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's get into the meat of this podcast. Some more dark treats for our October. We saw
an
Joker
excellent-
yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Yes. I know we've been talking about it on this show for a while now, so I guess we should go ahead and get into
Do you want to do like
post-viewing.
non-spoiler to spoiler kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially one of our big fellows here has not watched it.
We're staring at Marvin. You can't see him, but we are.
Yeah.
Our beady eyes.
I can feel their eyes on me. I was on my phone too. I can feel them shits.
The way he looks up.
I guess Marvin can ask as our uninformed correspondent to ask questions or so.
Yeah, you want to lead the way on this, Marvin?
Lead the way. I just want to preface this by asking, like, I'm very surprised, that people. I'm surprised that people are surprised at how good this movie is. Like I go to Twitter and people are like, "Wow, I can't believe Joker was that good." And I'm like, it is a character analysis of one of the greatest villains in comic book history.
Probably the most iconic villain in history.
Right, with Joaquin Phoenix in the titular role. Like, what did people expect to happen? Like, and I'm gonna see the movie regardless. But I don't know why people are so surprised that's good. But I wanna find out from y'all like what y'all liked about it. Because
Well, we're gonna have to get into spoilers for that.
of course. I've already had a spoil for me. I don't really care.
But overall thoughts, Abraham?
Oh, Alia?
My overall thoughts. I know we talked about the trailer recently and how we think the backlash after the trailer wasn't necessarily deserved, and I don't think a trailer in and of itself, the way it was portrayed, could cause normal-minded people, I guess, to go out and commit various acts of violence. However, this movie just seems it's greatly structured in every way, but it seems somewhat instructional in the Joker's message. One of the pinnacle line that I'm getting at.
Whoa.
What?
Spoilers? No spoilers? Oh, are we doing no spoiler section?
All right, whatever. You talk first then.
Okay.
Ooh, fuckles.
All right. I think that.
Is that the transition from spoiler to non-spoiler? Can we make that a...
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the movie was extremely well made. I like how they really placed the audience with the Joker's character, and they, without giving too much away, I feel like they made a good transition from understanding what got the Joker down, and
Yeah.
then what motivated his character,
Yeah.
and then also showing how they could take that away with a cinematic story that made sense. And then that just kind of pushes him over the edge
Oh yeah.
into the villain that we all know.
Oh yeah. This movie, it's really good. Like I thoroughly enjoyed myself in this movie.
Oh yeah.
My audience was actually laughing a lot. Really more at the awkwardness that
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix adds.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's something I noticed.
I didn't as much because it was a lot of I could just feel the pain. You know, there's a like this movie does a very good job of breaking down the psychology of a person with a certain condition, and you know the mental health aspect of it all, and overall, I mean, in terms of looks, yeah, like you were saying, this is a very well made movie. I knew before as it was being filmed, and I was just keeping up news tabs on it, that it was gonna be based on the look of some Martin Scorsese films, like Taxi Driver in particular, which I saw for the first time earlier this summer. And just to give more context, and what I mean by that is basically the grittiness of Scorsese films, especially the ones that he made back in the '80s, like King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, which are all like in New York and like around that time. It was just like kind of gross looking. Mm-hmm. And I thought with the look of this movie, although it was like gritty in that aspect, it was like a clean gritty, like everything was so clear. Yeah, but but the setting itself was just gross, and I still thought that was conveyed really well, And there were times I was looking at it, and I think the movie was shot on film, but there are other parts where I'm like, it's coming off as so clear to me that I wouldn't be surprised if it was just digital the whole time. But I think the performance. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix sells the movie. Like I can't think of sequences that he's really not in it for either of it. So it's really just everyone. Like he's the main. There's only one main character in this movie. It's him, and then everyone else are just either just side characters or very very minor characters. So I think his work is outstanding, and I'm like holding back because I don't want to drop into spoiler territories and things. But I just like all the thematics are thrown in here probably stick with me the most outside of its look.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my overall thoughts on the movie. I give it like an 8.5 to 9. But it's not perfect. I'll get into that later.
Okay. Marvin, any questions?
Any questions?
Before we get into spoilers, and I let Alia finish her thoughts.
I can't really think of anything.
All right, spoiler time.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Joker and you don't want to hear anything else about it, then don't watch the rest of this podcast until you see it. All right, cool. Alia, what were you gonna say?
I don't remember.
You're talking about a certain line. I know that, and you're about to use that as an example or something.
One of you all can talk first.
Okay.
I don't remember what I was talking about.
All right, cool.
Right.
Well, do you mind if I start off real quick?
Go ahead.
Okay, so this movie, how I interpreted it, it's all about defining purpose. How someone defines their purpose in life. I feel like at least that's what he's searching for. In times like it was like, why was I put on this earth? And later in the movie he realized I thought my life was a tragedy, but I realized it's a comedy. He's trying to find how he fits in. He wants people to notice him. And so I always thought this was interesting, and I kind of compared it to like, so what happens in the movie, this before I even say my point, is that we find out that Joker might be the son of Thomas Wayne. Or he is the son of Thomas Wayne through a letter that he reads, because his mom's been sending letters to Thomas Wayne because she was a former employee of her. And then after that, we realized that no, his mother is crazy, and that he was actually adopted and was abused as a child and was really a nobody. And so this kind of reminded me of Kay, right? I think that's the name, Ryan Gosling's character in Blade Runner 2049. Have you guys seen it?
No.
Not yet.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, we
well,
were talking about.
Okay, well, there's a part where Kay's he's a replicant cop. He's like doesn't really have a lot going for him. Not a lot of people like replicants, but he has a job, he has a purpose. And then it turns out in the film that he might have a bigger purpose, but later on in the film it turns out that he might not have that. So it's how do we interpret how people look highly on us. You know, like I'm gonna spoil the movie. I'm sorry.
We're in the spoiler section.
No, not that movie. Like 2049, because it gets to convey it more. If you don't mind.
Generic spoiler section.
So like
We're gonna spoil all movies.
yeah.
in this
So
section.
the big part of that movie is that replicants are like just made things. You're not born. And there's a part in the movie to where like Kay finds out that he is a born replicant, and so that freaks him out, and it gives him a higher sense of purpose. But then it turns out later in the film that he's not, and he's like just like any other replicant. And so I just found that like a very striking similarity to Arthur in this movie, Joker. That, you know, a clown, he has a job, is low, and then he finds out he's the son of Thomas Wayne, and there's like kind of some hope there, kind of some tragedy, but, you know, motivation, right, to figure out what's going on. But then when that confrontation happens in the bathroom, it's a crashing downward spiral of, you know, all right, I'm nothing. Now I have to define who I am on my own terms. And so I liked how that struggle goes on. And, you know, in Joker's case, that means killing my mom and, you know, acting a fool on a talk show and causing chaos. So, yeah, so I like that thematic part of defining purpose. But yeah, what are you guys' other thoughts on it? Or other parts?
Abraham?
All right. Let's see. I guess I can talk about his character as a whole. So, at the beginning of the film, you see just how the world beats him down.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're introduced to this character. And so, going into it, all we really know about him is that how everything is against him in this film. Ooh, I like this sound. Anyway, and then after there, we progress through his daily life, and he comes back home to his mother, and we see him taking care of his mother, and also taking the meds that he has, and watching TV with her, and I thought it was really it was a really important part of Joker's character when we saw him smile genuinely for the first time in the film, when he was sitting on the bed with his mom,
Yeah.
watching the stand-up bit on TV of I guess it's who he looks up to is Murrraaaaay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the first time we saw him smile in the film. And so that really gives the audience a sense of what he values and what brings him joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important, especially for this character study, because everything after that is just showing how they tear that down and how this character breaks apart.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they go through how he loses his job.
Yeah.
He
For
loses,
very dumb reasons.
Yeah. Well,
Well, actually, no.
no,
That part's valid. I'm thinking back to the whole sign thing.
Yeah,
scene.
the sign thing was dumb. But
Yeah, that was dumb. Oh, yeah. I people who watch this movies and be like, that kid's stupid. But yeah, okay.
But yeah, actually, the weird reason he loses his job is very valid.
Yeah.
And then he loses his job, so that purpose is gone for him.
Mm-hmm.
Then he also loses, he kind of loses the one thing he's been looking up to as comedy,
Mm-hmm.
because he was just like roasted on live TV.
Yeah.
And then
His mom has a stroke.
yeah, his mom has a stroke, so he loses his mom. Well, I mean, that's a little bit more complicated. He
Yeah.
killed his mom, but then he loses that relationship, in quotes, with
Did y'all
his-
buy
his
that when you
neighbor.
saw it?
Of course not.
Yeah, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
some people did, but I'm like, I knew it because she said his name, but I'm like, he never
Yeah,
gave her name.
that's I noticed that too.
Yeah.
I was like, this is weird, but I'm gonna just go with it for now.
Mhm.
And then when it turned out, oh, it's not real.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. So he lost that in a sense when everything came to light. he also lost his inspiration for comedy, both metaphorically and also in real life.
Yeah.
Even though that was by his own hands. Not only that, but he lost the therapy sessions, which gave him his medication. And so, I mean, I know that doesn't get highlighted as much in the movie, but that should also be taken into account to understanding some of the decisions he makes, especially later in the film.
Yeah.
So like all of those factors gradually and organically build up into this character that's falling apart mentally, and I feel like that was executed very well. That was what it was going for. So yeah.
Yeah, another theme that I liked about this movie, it's, you know, because it's all about, well, a lot of it was about social divide, right?
Yeah.
Specifically between, like, rich and poor, as Gotham is itself polarizing. As we've seen, like, Thomas Wayne is becoming, or running for mayor, and then the masses are like, you know, you don't care about us, you think about we're rats and we're clowns, and that's why they take up the clown mantle. But it's also, it's not even just that. There's a divide even amongst the poverty. Like, just think, like, the two instances where Arthur was, like, beaten down, it wasn't just by, like, the rich, it was by the poor, too. He first got jumped by street kids.
Yeah.
The second time he got jumped was by those rich other guys.
The businessmen.
Yeah, the business guys. So, I mean, like, it just shows how, like, you know, there's this shallowness of empathy everywhere. And, I mean, like, he just kind of gets a short end of the stick everywhere. And it kind of goes back to the scene where he was saying, I think the second time he met with his therapist, yeah, when she was breaking the news that they're closing, he was like, do you listen to what I'm saying? And I found it funny that, like, after he kind of says this, like, what the problem is going on between them, that she's like, they're closing us down. Like not even responding to, like, what he just said. Like, it's kind of like that, to where people, yeah, sure, they hear, or people just want to see, like, what they want to see, you know, or hear what they want to hear. So, I mean, I wrote this kind of down. So, like, the theme is, like, the shallowness of common human empathy. And, okay. Wait, no, I already said what I was writing down. But yeah, it's just like people don't, like, really care, not about, like, unless it's, like, about themselves. I mean, like, when Arthur was, like, playing with the kid on the bus, you know, that was harmless. But the woman just sees then she didn't really know what was going on. She said, "Why are you bothering my kid?" The kid is laughing. How is that bothering, you know? Like, that kind of mentality. And so, I mean, don't get me wrong, because there actually could be something said about kids in this movie. There's a lot of, like, different moments with Arthur and kids in this movie.
Yeah.
Some of them innocent, some of them really weird. So, like, the Bruce Wayne is probably the biggest example of that. With freaking hands in his mouth, that was kind of gross. But so that's just another thing. Yeah, I think maybe the biggest scene, though, that depicts this, like, people see what they want to see is in the final, I guess, big scene on the Murray show. Mm-hmm. When Arthur is talking his point, you know, he's defending himself against, like, the shooting of those guys. And De Niro, you know, and we can we relate to him because we were there. We saw that he got jumped, you know, and that he was really acting in self-defense.
I mean, to some extent.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you get jumped and you have a weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then he was
like
running down a guy and shooting him 3 times.
Right. But I mean, like, initially. Like,
initially.
Yeah. I mean, he could have used that, but he decided not to. You know.
Yeah.
And maybe I was thinking, maybe from his point of view, he's gotten to the point to where, like, he's not gonna believe me anyway. So why even use that justification? Mm-hmm. And De Niro, even when you're looking at this argument, it doesn't sound like he's necessarily listening to Arthur. He already has his mind made up that, you know, what happened was bad, and he's not hearing, you know. I think there's a line where Arthur was like, if it was me, you know, like, down there, like, you guys would just walk over me or whatever. But it's just these 3 rich dudes, and all of a sudden, you know, you don't even know the full circumstances and that kind of thing. So I just found that interplay to be interesting, how people go into arguments with the end already made up, you know? And how that plays into the whole social divide in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I thought an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think that was the first time he killed someone? Those 3 businessmen?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, because like the scene right after when he's in the bathroom, that's like, I think it's the first critical point where he's like kind of freeing himself a little bit because he starts dancing. Whenever he starts dancing, you know he's like in his element. That's what I picked up on.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when he starts dancing in the mirror, he seems like, you know, let go of like restraints and stuff. So I think that was like his first time experience, at least with shooting someone with a gun, because, you know, earlier in the film he shot through a wall and he freaked himself out, like he didn't really know how to use it and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Either that or he didn't. How do you not know it was loaded? Like what?
I don't know. Like, part of me was thinking, I'm like, this chick's about to freaking shoot through something. Like, because like I just didn't like how he was just waving around and stuff, and like,
know.
and acting it out or something. Yeah. Yeah, that scene actually reminds me of Taxi Driver too. That's where that's the classic "Are you looking at me?" scene comes from. That De Niro does. I also find it funny. De Niro was the main character in Taxi Driver, and he's in this movie. And
Wow.
yeah, and so like when Joker was like playing around with the gun, I keep thinking of the scene in Taxi Driver where he's playing around with guns too. So I'm like, the nods are here in this movie. But
Okay,
yeah.
what did you think? Did you think that was the first time Joker had killed?
I don't know. I know the movie definitely frames it like that. Sorry, I'm typing something out right now. I know the movie definitely frames it like that. However, there's this notebook, this joke notebook that he carries around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the movie never dwells on it, but every other page is like some picture of some body
Yeah.
that does that does not look lively at all. So it's like, why do you have that there? And I think that it's meant for the audience to pick up on, because then there'd be no other reason for what I perceive as foreshadowing of putting a clip of Bruce's father
Yeah.
and his mother in the notebook.
Right. Okay. See, like that's like. I was gonna say, do you think that like his next victims kind of thing, but like he didn't kill them or anything.
Or just maybe people that he doesn't want around anymore.
Okay. Like a
Yeah,
Death Note
people
thing.
who thinks he's awful.
Yeah,
people
sure.
who think he thinks are awful.
Okay.
Or disgusting.
Gotcha. Whew.
That was one thing. They showed the way they framed that notebook was really smart. I feel like, because it made you kind of lean in and try and see what was in there, but they
Yeah.
never gave you enough time to really pick up on
Yeah.
what was actually going on in there.
You can just tell that like that's some shady stuff up
Yeah.
in there. Up in there. It's like that's something I probably would not want to read.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the Waynes though, I was surprised at how much they were in this movie.
Yeah, me too. I feel like that was a really good point of like how well the movie balanced the lore of Gotham with this character study. Like,
Yeah.
the character study could stand alone as something completely independent of the Batman IP.
Yeah.
But they also incorporated it well with a lot of the events that we know go on in the comics and throughout other adaptations as well.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Todd Phillips, the director of this movie, he came out earlier and said that they didn't really pull too many, or like I'm not saying he didn't pull any inspiration from the comic. Basically, just saying they're doing their own thing, but inadvertently they kind of have to, just through like the basic lore of it all.
Yeah.
But I will say what is interesting is that because they did do the Wayne murders
Yeah.
at the end, and I was surprised by that they would even include that, and it makes me think like, this is like the 4th or 5th time like this has been shown in movies. Like, I mean, they showed it in BVS, they showed it in Batman Begins, freaking I think Batman 1989, and probably some others too. Like it's literally in every Batman movie. I feel like it's in there.
I thought you said CVS at first.
No, BBS. And so, yeah, I was surprised, and I was like, shoot, are they even gonna do like the Pearl thing? And they did. I was like, holy frick. And but the point I was going to make is that Joe Chill, the guy, the murderer of the Wayne parents, was wearing a Joker mask or a clown mask. So I'm like, that's gonna make an impression on Bruce Wayne. And so like when he envisions the guy who shot it down, you know, it's not just. I think it makes the relationship between Joker and Batman, which they probably won't do it on screen based off this universe that they're showing in this movie. But I'm just thinking like in continuity in my head, like whenever Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, that the tie between Joker and Batman was it was been created like right there.
Yeah.
Because at least how I've interpreted Batman's origin, Bruce Wayne died with his parents. So like after witnessing that, it's him discovering Batman. Like Batman was kind of born in that moment, in my opinion. At least that's how I look at the mythos of the character. And so Batman's birth at the hand of, you know, a Joker, kind of like a Joker mythology, not
Follower?
Yeah, follower, kind of, yeah. Like the person, yeah. It kind of, I don't know, I really like that tie. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like they took this mythos that we know about Batman, and then they also just incorporated that really well into the story of Joker, where it kind of builds this idea of anyone in this situation could have turned out like this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point of the character study.
Yeah, that kind of goes in. I kind of want to tie it to the other adaptations. Do you mind?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, so like when I was thinking back and I was comparing Keith and Joaquin, I can't say his name. Joaquin, like it's not walking, but it's close. So it's like, but yeah, Joaquin Phoenix and Heath Ledger, and I was just thinking it up, and I'm like, so the one from this movie, his performance is like what you just said. Like this is like Joker in our world. Like I could see this happening like here, like in our universe.
Yeah.
While Heath Ledger's Joker is like optimal in a more traditional comic book. Like if you were to take a comic book and make it realistic, you get Heath Ledger. But if you were to just take our world and under those certain circumstances, you can get Joaquin's Joker. Like that's why I feel like they're phenomenal on their own, and you can't really completely compare them because it's like two different circumstances kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like they optimize very essential aspects of the Joker, but different aspects, I think. Plus, I think, you know, Joker is already well established in The Dark Knight compared to this movie, which is an origin story.
Yeah. But I feel like on top of that, how do we approach this? I guess two of the things I was surprised about. One, I didn't expect Joker and Bruce Wayne to meet.
Yeah.
And I thought that was
I thought that was
really interesting.
I thought that was a weird cut too, to, from the scene before into him like Bruce Wayne's just on the playground, and then like Arthur is just behind the fence with the nose and the thing, and I was like, that's an interesting jump.
Yeah.
And yeah, I felt like something was cut out or something like that. I don't know. There are like some interesting like cuts in this movie that I'm like, I feel like I think there is a longer cut of this somewhere. But yeah, that whole scene was really, really interesting, especially, you know, when Alfred saves this Bruce Wayne. But I think we kind of assumed it before a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that, and also the political drama that also unfolds kind of in the background to this plot. So you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't focused too much on it because I was really studying Arthur for most of the movie, and so even like when he said, you know, what I'm doing is not political, I was kind of like, I was yeah. So I wasn't even like when he said that, I was like, oh, I wasn't really too much in depth even thinking of that. I was just thinking how his actions. I mean, really, his actions are inadvertently political.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, because like what he's doing. He is a product of society, and politics kind of help mold society / control society to a certain extent. And so I thought that was interesting. The whole like lifting up Thomas Wayne. This is really from the perspective of the mother, because obviously not everyone shares this opinion, but people, upholding certain political figures to be like family-esque or just buying into exactly what they say versus other people. And this person, by the way, who lives in the same as the other people who are complaining about like Thomas Wayne too. Yeah. So I thought that was also interesting. So yeah. There's also like there's a total theme about media in this movie as well, because like you're saying, like most people are getting their information and insights from watching TV. A lot of the scenes in the movie is Arthur and his mother watching TV, and so where they get their inspirations, their aspiration, the escapism of it all, and stuff like that.
Yeah, also TV, newspaper, the media in general. Yeah, I can see that.
For sure.
And that also, I guess that shapes the way that the background characters in the movie kind of understand the world around them.
Yeah.
And we get to see that not only with the characters that we're introduced to, but also the mobs that we see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think back to, once again, the scene where the therapist says they're shutting us down, and where he's like, and I'm paraphrasing, but she says, the world, they don't give a crap about you, Arthur. They don't give a crap about me either, So I thought that hit me in a deeper way too, because, it shows that everyone's kind of screwed in the world that they live in. But, yeah. Marv, any thoughts?
I actually had a question about the portrayal of Thomas Wayne in the movie. I know, like, historically in the comics, they portray like the Waynes, like Thomas and Martha, as like these like philanthropic, or how you pronounce that, like really like charitable,
saint-like kind of.
Yeah, very kind, people who gave a lot to the city. And from what I've been hearing a lot, like on Twitter and everything, is they make the Waynes, or at least Thomas Wayne, seem like a dickhead, basically, very nasty.
Yeah, he was.
My question really was like how y'all felt about that.
Okay. Abe?
I felt like that was probably the most effective way for the story it was telling.
Yeah.
Since you haven't seen it, I mean, he was an asshole to Arthur when Arthur finally met up with him. I mean, he punched him square in the face when he was like, "Hey, I'm your son." "No, you're not." Then just punch him in the face. And then also we kind of get it goes back to like the media, the way the media is portraying him. The media portrays him as like the saint of the city, or he's coming up to bring these destitute, poor people out of their poverty and then into a good and a fulfilling environment. And then that's contrasted with how the poor view him, because like he literally said that these people are clowns and their only hope is me. Like, so that's, on one end it's like, hey, I'm trying to help you, but like on the other end it's like, hey, I'm God. So
I'll say it's totally about perspective, because I'm thinking like, in the eyes of Bruce Wayne, his parents are saints, which is what's going to drive him down to become this way. And I don't know, did you ever follow the Telltale Batman series?
Oh yeah, where like the Waynes were like involved with like Carmine Falcone and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's almost kind of like that in a way that, well, like here's the thing, like we don't know how Thomas Wayne is as an actual character. All we have is him on the newsreel, and the only time we see him in person is with Arthur. And now just imagine, because let's just look through Thomas Wayne's perspective. So way back in the day, you have this employee who's delusional, and he's going around saying, hey, that we're together and we're in love, and like this is my child, but really she's crazy and has been beating this adopted child and letting her boyfriend beat on him too. And so he's like, all right, yeah, get away from here. And now she's been sending letters to him for years. So it's just kind of like, I can kind of relate and be like, I would not want that pressure in my life, you know? And then the son of this person who doesn't really understand this whole situation went to your house and was like doing
went to his
things to your,
house?
yeah, you went to his house to confront him at first, and that's where he ran into Bruce. Yeah, and then like he was playing around with him at first, but then he did the little make him smile thing, and that was kind of like and so like and he wasn't there either, so he just knows that some stranger went to my house and was like quote unquote touching my kid.
Yeah.
So like I can kind of understand the punch, you know, but you know it's all about the context of everything too. It's all about perspective. So I don't think Thomas Wayne is a saint, but I don't think he's like as evil. I don't think he gets it either from the poverty perspective. So like I don't think he's like pure evil, and I don't think he's like purely good either. You know.
Okay.
He's probably more like the Telltale, but not like a gangster or anything like that, in a way.
Oh,
If that makes kind of sense.
that's what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's all I had to ask about.
Ollie? Do you have anything to say?
I think I remember what I was trying to say before.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about I was giving my not initial reaction to the movie, but initial reaction to when it first like ended, like when the end credits scene came up. Everybody in the theater was clapping, and I think in the premiere of like the Italian premiere, like they gave like a standing ovation for like a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even bring myself to clap. It was a great movie, and I like the movie, and I like how it's structured. I just see like all of the backlash that was placed on the trailer. I don't think that was duly placed on the trailer, but I do think it might be duly placed on the movie for how it seems how the Joker seems so instructional in his point of view, in that the one particular line when he was on Murray's show, he said, this joke without a freaking punchline.
Yeah.
He said, "What do you get when you cross a mentally ill person with a society that," I don't remember like the exact phrasing, but a society that abandons them and treats them like shit. He said, "You get what you fucking deserve."
Yeah.
He shoots him and kills him. And as you see like later in the movie, when the whole town is just worshiping this guy that we all know is the most evil and terrible villain in history, it was instructional for them at least, which I don't think is all that beneficial, especially pertaining to how well, you know, like you said yourself, this could take place during our real days and times. This can take place in our reality. How well we can relate to the people who are there. I would hope we wouldn't worship somebody like the Joker. But it's whether you're neurotypical or not, by the end of the movie you're almost on his side. And to me, that's a problem. Because if the people who made this movie like didn't want it to come off instructional, even though like the Joker just said basically like, oh well, like this is what you all deserve.
Yeah.
If they didn't want that to happen, I think they're relying too much on the audience's meta knowledge of how this is the worst villain ever, of how he is the most twisted person, how this is the same person from The Killing Joke, and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because they do everything to unravel that perspective of yours once you sit in the seat. They do everything to make him such a sympathetic character. And it works. It works so well. There are different aspects of it that I really like that work well. For instance, like the very first time he was attacked, like when he got the sign taken away from him and just got like the crap beat out of him, they assign a form of innocence to him right then and there. Because like the beginning opening shot of the movie is like, oh, this guy is crying, he's twisted, that's the Joker and whatever. But as soon as he gets beat up, he's like clutching himself, he's holding himself tightly. And
protecting the family jewels.
Protecting the family jewels. I didn't even see him get kicked there. But he was certainly holding that, and that adds a certain level of vulnerability. Like I think every guy in the audience would be like, I wouldn't want that to happen to me.
Yeah, I was looking at it and I'm like, yep, you did good. That's what you protect.
And even as like for the people who like aren't men in the audience or whatever, it's almost the vulnerability aspect of it, of when they're like laying there in the aftermath, is framed like a lot of like how different TV shows or whatever frame rape victim stories, which adds another layer of vulnerability to it. And every time we see him get more comfortable throughout the movie, you see him like in full clothes first. He's in this whole costume. He's a clown and whatnot. We see him go home, we see him decompress, then he's just wearing normal clothes. Then he went out on a date, not really, and he's wearing like date clothes and crap, which is not less clothes, but it's more personable. And then later, we see him only wearing pants, and then finally towards the end, when he's like truly himself and he's really embracing himself, he's only in his underwear, and they're like tidy whities at that, which is like...
when he's dyeing his hair and stuff.
When he's dyeing his hair and stuff, and to me... I always attribute that to like childhood jokes of like tidy whities, like that's something kids wear. That's not something grown men wear or whatever.
I mean, some men wear briefs.
I mean, I'm not talking about briefs, but I'm saying tidy whities as a joke or whatever. So to me, it adds a sort of vulnerability as we're getting closer to seeing the true him, and he's getting closer to revealing himself. But I just think there are like certain aspects about the movie that like wowed me because of how weird they were. And I loved seeing the reactions in the audience to a certain extent because it was kind of distracting while I was watching the movie. But
talkers in there.
But I'm like so glad that I got to see got to see the reaction from the audience that I did, because so many times people, like everybody in the theater was just turning to each other and looking at each other like confused as fuck. Like, what just happened? Like, is this real? Is this okay? And there were some genuinely funny moments in the movie where a lot of people laughed, but it just felt really uncomfortable for them to laugh, and it felt uncomfortable for me to laugh.
There were parts I just couldn't. Go ahead.
The movie was funny as fuck. I just want to say that this movie is fucking hilarious, but you're way too uncomfortable to laugh. It frames the humor in the perfect way that works for the Joker. It's like, this is really funny, but it's really crude.
Like, like I remember, like, remember when he went to go study stand up and like they're laughing and then he laughs and then they're laughing again and it's like he's like just like off the beat and it's kind of awkward.
Yeah. It's like the jokes that resonated with him were like completely different than what normal people kind of.
So you can tell like this guy is off, quite literally.
And even in the filming, I think you can see how the audience laughing was probably a delusion for him, because we hear the audience laughing when he's telling the jokes while he's like doing the stand-up, but it's not there in the recording. When Murray's playing it, I don't hear any laughter in it.
I don't know if like they're laughing like at his joke or they're just laughing at him. Maybe I don't know. Like, I
didn't hear any laughter at all in the recording that there was of the situation.
Like when they played it on the show,
right?
Okay.
Like I didn't hear anything at all except for him.
Gotcha. One thing I want to touch on, what you said earlier about the instructional part. And that does bring a line like, that's a pretty direct.
It was extremely direct.
Right.
It's not even insinuated.
Right, but I mean, like, you gotta put things in context. Like, anyone who would be inspired by this movie is already delusional.
Exactly.
In that case, that's what I would think.
Exactly. And one of the problems I have with this movie is the audience, it almost speaks to, is that audience that something could happen to? Is that audience that could go through with it possibly, because we have a main character that's supposed to be modeled like them.
Right. But I have to think, like, this movie is titled Joker.
Right.
Like, you gotta know what you're about to watch. Like, in terms of, like, I mean, like, how do you make a Joker movie without, because most popular renditions of Joker, he is this, like, he's a byproduct of society, you know? So, like, you gotta, like, people just kind of know that. You gotta know that, one, he's evil, gets base value because he's a villain.
Right.
And two, if you know a little bit more about him, you know that aspect of him, too. So you already know there's going to be social commentary being spoken in this movie.
Right.
So, like, it's up to us, right, as the audience to separate, you know, what he actually is, despite how relatable it is. Because they're trying to, the filmmaker's like, well, how do we make this guy who loves chaos, like, understandable, you know? And so going back to Killing Joke, you know, it only takes one bad day, something like that, or and I guess in Arthur's case, a series of bad weeks.
Yeah, bad life.
I mean,
Yeah, a bad life. Yeah.
I want to touch on that later,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, keep going.
And so, I mean, I just think, it's our hope, that people can distinguish, right? It's all about
Of course.
discernment and stuff.
Of course.
And so, and honestly, it's not even just this movie. Like, people who are concerned about the violence, I'm like, like American Psycho, like, there wasn't like a rise in serial killers after that movie or
Right.
anything like that. It's just, I don't know. I find it kind of redundant, to be honest, because it's just the same. I think Jeremy Johns was talking about this earlier too. He's a reviewer.
Wonderful man.
Yes, and so he was talking about it's just I guess a subgroup or specific topic about the whole general do violent media cause violence kind of thing.
I
Yeah.
don't think it causes violence.
Right, but
I
that's the
definitely-
question, right?
right.
That of debate, and so it's just like this movie is just like an example of that just being talked about, and it's been
Right.
going on for decades now.
Right.
So I don't really see the new aspect of it, or
I think the one new aspect of it is how instructional it is.
Oh, okay.
Because I haven't sat down in a theater or at home and seen another movie, even American Psycho, that was like, you get what you deserve because you mix this and that. That's just what happens. When, like, that's just not. I think that's just completely new and unique to the movie.
Yeah,
from my
it's a fair
perspective.
point. It's a fair point.
But I also feel like you also have to take into account that was coming from his perspective, the Joker.
Of course.
So that is kind of how he speaks to it. But we also just need to know that it's coming from his context. So you can't place his value as, well, we know he's the villain, and also we know that he's not in the state to make a discernment of what is actually morally right and wrong.
Right.
So-
That's just definitely not what you get while you're in the movie theater
Yeah.
watching all of this stuff. It's like, oh, that's your causality to why you're doing this, and it really shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
go ahead.
had a few things I jotted down while Talia was talking, and I wanted to make some more comments on that.
Oh, thank you, Abraham.
Yes. So I also on the instructionality, that's a word now.
What?
I do feel like there's another layer to that as well because of how the political backdrop was also integrated into this movie. So it almost makes it even more instructional just how realistic the political drama in the
Exactly.
background is.
Yeah.
Because it's framing the rich versus the poor, and like the poor people aren't really getting. We just see the poor get even in increasingly worse conditions as the movie goes on. And it does such a good job at not even focusing on it, but you still understand it completely.
Yeah.
Like the movie opens up with introducing us to this city where trash is just everywhere.
Super rats.
Yeah, the super rats also.
And that never came up again. I
No.
laughed hard as shit at that moment.
I do remember, like, when the Waynes died, I saw a couple of them in the back, and I was like, oh yeah, those were pretty big.
And then also when Joker's running through the city after he did his first kill, we see him running through like where just homeless people are just huddled around burning canisters just to try and seek warmth for the night. So like it's always in the background of the movie, but it never dwells on it enough. But it's just enough for you to get the taste of the setting and what it's building around. Also, back to how they built up this vulnerability for Arthur as a character, I feel like a really striking point for me was showing his relationship with his mom. And I feel like showing him go home and like see the process of him seeing his mom on the couch sleeping or whatever, she's watching TV or whatever.
Yeah.
Waking her up, getting her a bath.
Yeah,
cares
giving
for
her a bath, clothing her,
Sending
giving
her letters.
food. Yeah.
And she's
like-
right there.
Yeah.
Just all of that. It's probably the most tender moment we ever see with this character in the film. And I feel like having that connection with, I feel like I know in other adaptations, the thing that kind of sets Joker off is him losing his wife. But I feel like in this adaptation
much more personal.
with his mother, yeah, that's a bond for life, like
Yeah.
literally. So that kind of building that kind of connection was so much more effective, I feel like,
Yeah.
for the Joker as a character.
Which is why it hurt so much when we find out
Yeah.
what she really was.
That
Yeah.
scene floored me.
Are you
I
talking when he's
love
in the
how that-
stairwell?
When he's in the
Yeah,
stairwell,
okay.
I love how that build up was
Yeah.
was structured, because
Yeah.
I feel like nowadays we get like a typical set of twists in a movie or like any dramatic movie where the character like finds out something about themselves and then somebody says, no, that's not true, why would you ever believe that person's crazy, and then you get the next twist is like, oh well, the person who said that person was crazy, they're a liar. This was true all along. But that's not what we get at all.
Yeah.
It is not what we get at all. We get something changed, and it really did. It really did. You actually are adopted. Surprise. And that moment solidifies both the the villain's character. What's Thomas Wayne's character?
Yeah.
As well as the Joker. Instead of just Thomas Wayne's character, if it was found out that he was just lying about all of that, that he went through all this to just cover it up.
Just like a side note, like kind of like a nitpick. I'm surprised they didn't like put him in like in freaking Child Protective Services after like his whole rendition with his mother, because not only was she crazy, but then like she just let her boyfriend or whatever beat on his kid. That implies that you're not taking good care of your kid, and she was put in the hospital, right?
Right, because she was beat on too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why is he still there?
crazy.
Yeah.
I guess that maybe that just shows the quality of Gotham's, care or something
Yeah.
for children or something like that. The
And,
failure
like,
to
they
system.
did-
Therapy's getting shut down.
Yeah,
Nobody
they did
cares.
make like some good points about how we treat like mental health issues
Yeah.
in society.
We gotta talk about that laugh.
Okay.
We gotta talk about it.
Yeah. We can.
I mean, because that ties into the mental health.
I can tie it into this next point I wanted to bring up. I wanted to bring up the big Kahuna, Phoenix's performance.
Yeah,
Man.
this guy.
I mean, there's nothing else I need to say about it.
I mean, only him and Christian Bale are just willing to become sticks to portray these roles. The
Yeah.
method acting. Well, I don't think Phoenix wasn't like I don't think he was a big method actor, because that implies that you're acting when the camera stops. I don't think he did that. But yeah, what you're saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say that his performance was incredible. There's not enough words for me to state how how well he did his job. If you haven't seen this movie, go see it, please, because you need to see him as the Joker.
Yeah,
because he does this character right.
He's getting an Oscar nom. There's no way in heck that he would not get nominated for this.
Yeah.
I don't know about winning, but definitely nominated. Oh my
I
gosh.
definitely think he would.
Yeah. I guess probably my favorite performances by him were the dancing scenes.
The dancing teams.
That just really resonated with me.
Ooh, I have
Why? How?
It was framed beautifully, and it was every time it was shown, it was at a pivotal point in his character.
yeah.
So you just be dancing. That's how it resonated with you.
Yeah, I just be dancing. Sometimes a big fella gotta dance.
I have a quick question. So like his whole original plan was to go on the show and shoot himself to prove a point,
Yeah.
but he didn't. Obviously.
That was a twist.
So when do you think he decided to change? When do you think he changed his mind?
When he was dancing backstage.
Okay, like so, like right before he got back on.
Yeah, that and no, not when he was dancing backstage.
Okay.
When he was backstage in his dressing room.
Okay.
Because he asked Murray to call him the Joker, introduce
Yeah.
him as the Joker, and he's like, "What? Why would you want to be like called that or whatever?" And he says, "Well, that's what you called me last time when you were
Yeah.
like showing my video." And just the fact that it was just one more thing that broke the camel's back. It was just the fact that Murray didn't remember something he said about him on
Yeah.
his show. It was like, well, that's ridiculous. So I think that might have been a turning point for him in terms of his
Gotcha.
finale for his performance.
I've heard people say that it happened when he was waiting backstage before he danced, but like when
Right.
they were like getting ready to bring him out, and you know they're doing the joking about him and stuff. And when he was smoking a cigarette, people think that
Yeah.
he's like I think it happened later when go ahead, Abraham. Reset.
No, you might be saying what I was about to
Okay.
say.
I thought it happened later when they started talking about the murders or something, or that happened. I think it happened in the conversation between De Niro and Joker.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Murray.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Murray.
Murray, yeah.
Yeah, I think it happened in that conversation, specifically when he was about to tell his joke.
Because he was only doing the knock-knock joke, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was about to say the knock knock joke, and then Murray just interrupted him and was like, "What took you that long to figure out that
Yeah.
one?"
They're just
See, I thought
ribbing him while he was right there.
I thought he'd be like pissed that he ruined that or something, and I thought he might would have lost it like right there or something like that because he's been planning it for so long, and the fact that it wasn't working out that he just would have broke or something like that.
Yeah.
But obviously it didn't, and it spurred on, and they had that conversation. I will say that he didn't feel like I didn't get I could tell this was like this is the most different-ish Joker that I've seen. Like I haven't seen Joker like this before, you know. But the most I've seen in traditional sense, it was when it was specifically the camera shots of him on the TV after he shot him or whatever, and he was like, I don't think he danced or anything, but when he go up to like look into the camera and talk or whatever.
Yeah.
And when he shot him again, and I was like, that it kind of reminded me. I was thinking back to like Batman the animated series when Mark Hamill Joker did that a lot, like say like in the Christmas special and stuff. And I got like flashbacks there, and I'm like, yeah, this is something he would do. And I don't know, the feeling finally felt right there. One thing I didn't care for the song choice they used for when he was going down the staircase.
Oh, I loved that.
Really?
Really?
I really liked it.
I don't know, like that song is from I like what happened, like visually, the sound. I don't know. It brought me back to like Cartoon Network or something. Cause I think they used to play it on that for like some other. I don't know why. It just didn't feel.
Your past trauma.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't feel right. I prefer like whatever music they used in the trailer at that part, which I think
Yeah.
was just the overall score.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny too. The cops were just looking at him in the background the whole time.
Just like, what?
Yeah, the score was amazing in the film. Like, there was a lot of like ambience in the sound and a lot of moments where there wasn't really music.
Yeah.
But they gave you just the right tension for the right moments, and then they let the music open up when it needed to.
Yeah,
and I
it's
really appreciated
A very
that.
subtle score for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like the laugh. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to get into it. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. The
Yeah, Marvin, do you know about this? The laugh
The
part?
laugh? No, I don't.
You
I
hear
just.
it in the trailer at least.
Oh,
you're talking
yeah.
about what causes it?
like what it means. Yeah.
Oh, doesn't he have like Tourette's or something?
It's some condition. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gives a card when he like gets overcome by a painful fit of laughter that says, "Oh, I burst into fits of laughter sometimes that like don't portray my emotions exactly. It's a medical condition that could be caused by trauma to the head."
Okay.
Is that what the card said verbatim? Because I mean that
Write
sounded
it
pretty
down.
accurate.
I'm gonna say, oh yeah, damn.
Because I'm like,
Well, like
this
I
is-
read that and I was like, okay, because
Okay.
I was freaked out. I need to know why this man is laughing.
Yeah.
Like this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It makes you like touch your throat.
Oh yeah, that's why I wanted to get back to the laugh, and I went. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say Phoenix's performance with that was incredible because it portrayed, even without the card, it gave you all the information you needed to know about it.
Yeah.
Because one, it didn't portray the normal laughter or comedic environment of like, okay, this is a funny moment, he laughed about it. One, it did that. Two, it sounded like it was giving him pain because eventually he was like,
He would like cough after.
Yeah.
He would be
Yeah, he
out
would,
of breath.
He would choke
he
and stuff. Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
holding his throat and then also like almost gagging because of how much he was laughing.
Yeah.
And three, he did it so well, it made you understand like, oh, this has been going on for a long time now.
And that's what
Yes.
the medication was for, right? To kind of help with that, I think.
Yes, and
Okay.
that long time now is what I wanted to talk about because of the thing that you were talking about when he was in the stairwell finding out about
Yeah.
his mom.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that it connects back to when he was talking about he was talking to his mom right before he killed her, how you always told me that this laughter was like something that was wrong with me, but I just think it's who I am. After that, we see how comfortable he is with his laughter, and it doesn't even sound weird anymore. It sounds like a comfortable, actual laugh. And before that, I think it's so weird. I think that his mom could have been the person to come up with the card and spread that. We know that in his case file, when he was adopted, the trauma stated that he did in fact get hit on the head.
Yeah.
So I think she coupled the two because the laughter that we see after that is just normal. And I think all of this time was him being fooled or being fed into her delusions and like accepting that about himself and how painful it was. And after he accepts himself, it's just unrelented laughter, like actual human laughter. I think it may not have been caused by the head trauma or the abuse, but maybe developed as some sort of coping mechanism because it only takes one bad day to make somebody go crazy. And I think that might have been his one bad day because that just seemed like a lot. She always said he was the happiest child. So
Yeah.
obviously this had been going on at least since then.
Another thing about the laugh, it wasn't just pain; it was like sadness too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the laugh portrayed, that's another thing. The laugh portrayed this well-balanced like mix between, oh, he's laughing and he's crying.
Yeah, you can't tell. If you look away, you can't tell.
Yeah. You just look at it. Yeah, it's like because he's not necessarily smiling while laughing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like a kind of a frown. I love
in
the
pain.
first scene with him when he's putting on the makeup, his like job clown makeup, and he's like doing the I can't. You don't know what I'm doing.
Put on a happy face.
Yeah.
And then he's just
Yeah.
a single tear comes down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just painful to look at. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like depressed. this movie. This isn't something I would like casually watch, like in the background or anything.
No, not at all.
This is a total psychological study of a human being that may or may not want you to do some stupid things after, but don't.
May or may not. What do you mean?
I feel like the last thing I want to kind of touch on, just because we've had some bomb-ass superhero movies lately, can we compare kind of like the way villains have been developed in the recent years? Like basically Thanos and Joker?
That might be another episode, my guy.
Yeah, that'll probably be another
Yeah, I
episode.
think we're almost out of time.
All right.
One thing that I did want to say before we left, because this was something that I wrote down from you,
Yeah.
that he tells Murray that he killed those people because he thought they were awful, because you think that's just like what Murray wants to hear. Murray, that's what he wants to hear anyway. I think he may have been telling the truth. Because he laughs in painful situations that turn his stomach. He was laughing long before and almost without reason, before they were even close to him
Right.
or looked at him. He drew their attention to him.
Right.
He
Yeah.
laughs at awful things.
Right. I was saying that I thought it was interesting that Joker didn't use any kind of justification. He didn't flat out say what the guys did to him.
Right. I don't
yeah.
even think that was his point.
Yeah.
I really don't think that was a motivation for him that much. Because we saw that he did run up on the guy when he was crawling up the stairs and shot him in the back.
Yeah, I think yeah, exactly. That change of thought right then. Yeah, it probably wouldn't. Yeah, and I think even if he did say that, I don't know if Murray would, buy it because he's
Yeah.
already hard on thought. Like what if, he already has his take on what has happened. So I do think frick. Okay, this is my last thought, and it's about Murray because I thought De Niro was really good as his character, and it just I guess it goes back to society and how like
We live in a society.
yeah how but like everyone in Gotham knows that they're in crap, even though there's still like disconnect between the people. Because I thought it was interesting how Murray kept egging Joker on, because the guy in the background was like, dude, like stop, like you have to cut this off, but he wants the conversation. And so I think that's like, it was his way of addressing the social issues that was going on, you know. But it came to the tragedy that, you know, people are still not, can really have a good conversation about stuff. Because, you know, the polarization is too wide. But yeah, that's just my final thought for now.
I have one more thing.
Yes.
One and a half more things.
Okay.
But one thing that I noticed throughout the movie, I don't know what they were trying to do with it. It came off really weird.
Yeah.
But every like therapist that he had, or person that was trying to give him help, or somebody he was trying to lean on, was like some black woman. And I was like, with such a crafted movie that does things purposefully, I'm like, that can't have been a coincidence.
Oh, that was on purpose, yeah.
I'm like, I don't know what they were trying to go with it.
Like social workers in the 80s.
Social workers in the 80s, I definitely like think
Even the dude
that
that got
would-
the file from.
yeah,
Black dude,
even
yeah.
the person that collected the
Yeah,
file.
they
from
had
him.
half the Atlanta cast in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ZZ and Brian Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was interesting. I would have to watch it again, because I don't just think it's a form of like typecasting, because that's just the people who would have filled those spots at that time.
Yeah.
I think it was done purposefully, so I would want to watch the movie again to pick up on that and like fully understand why they chose to do that.
For sure.
Other than that, I think the movie portrays the Joker well, and his problems and his issues and maybe his form of mental illness well. But I know a lot of wait, I'm not sure how do I want to phrase this. I know like in like real life,
Right.
some events that may happen, it's thought of like, oh, mental illness means like, oh, well, like they didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
I don't think mental illness, it's in and of itself, or all of them, at least not all of them,
Yeah.
means you don't know right from wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And I definitely think Joker was one of those people who did know right from wrong.
Yeah.
And he chose to do one or the other at different points. But yeah, that's all I want to say.
Yeah, I guess you guys kind of filled in my final thoughts. I've said most everything I thought about it throughout this podcast, but if I had to give it a rating, I won't. Okay.
Who said 10 out of 10? Was that somebody else?
No, I
No,
said
somebody-
8.5
that
or
was
9.
No.
No, that
It
was
wasn't your
somebody
story?
else. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe I'll say that in another episode.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. Thank you for listening in to this spicy discussion about this great movie.
Yeah, this will be a special long one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Very
an
special.
extra fig Bella. An extra big fig Bella.
I didn't like that. Not at all.
All right. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and hit that bell for our notifications whenever we upload something.
Yeah.
Thank
Make
you
sure
all.
to follow our podcast on Spotify.
Oh yeah, we're on Spotify now.
Oh.
Share your thoughts on Joker in like the comments section. I'd really appreciate that. I love hearing people's opinions.
Yeah, please.
I don't give a fuck about people's opinions.
Oh my goodness.
Same.
All right, subscribe to us. Thank you all for listening. We love you. See you next time. Bye.